Good day everyone, my name is Sergine Castillo and I am here to discuss about Creativity by Marshall Dimock. So yeah, let's get started. Marshall Edward Dimock was an American political scientist, professor of public administration at the Department of Government at New York University, known for his work in the field of public administration. Creativity is originality, but it is more than that. It is bringing something into the world that is relatively new and possibly revolutionary in its wide circle of effects. Creativity goes on all the time. Innovation is sometimes the result of accident, as the discovery of penicillin is said to have been. Discovery may be the accomplishment of little educated, while creativity occurs in every nation hardly at all. This may be explained by nations' more social system and organization and management. Creativity is not always fully accepted, or it may even be discouraged and punished by sanction of various kinds. In some countries, it is forbidden to draw the human form, for instance, because it is an insult to a jealous god. Or it may be taken as a matter of faith that anything man-made, no matter how charming, must have an imperfection of some kind. Members of both sexes learn to play musical instruments, dance, or draw, or even perform original mathematical solution at a tender age. Creativity is something less than this, but in most people's mind, it bears a strong family resemblance. Now, which of these two views is correct? Is creativity inborn or is it produced socially? This question is so important that it should not answered offhandedly or on the basis of personal preference, possible prejudice, or human conceit. Throughout history, most near geniuses do seem to have had this inner urge, something called a passion, the madness of the gods, or merely death touch. But equally, the encouragement and training of the mind, either by self or outside teaching, does seem to produce innovation of a high order. And certainly, there can be no question that social environment is a universal factor. What is creativity? So, there are 5 main approaches to the question of what causes creativity. These are intuition, synthesis, imagination, level of attention, and conflict. There are also supported theories included in each approaches that we need to know in accepting substantial part of it. Directly or indirectly and over a long period of time, a great deal has been written about creativity, but no one theory is presently completely accepted. One reason for this is that different fields of knowledge require different factors in combination. Scientists such as Einstein say that imagination is more important in higher mathematics than mere logic. Second factor is that some commentators stress one factor and others stress different ones in their evaluation of relative importance. Still, another explanation is that creativity, being individual and highly personal, requires much self-analysis when assessing the relative significance of the factors that make up creativity. But what are the main approaches? Intuition, the ability to understand something immediately without the need of conscious reasoning. Intuitionism is a highly respectable approach to creativity. Some of the best scientists give this as the principal explanation of creativity. W.I.B. Beveridge, for example, in The Art of Scientific Investigation, 1950, divides all scientists innovators into two groups, A and B. The A's being the one who know that something is true before completing and the B's being the one who excel in facts and in patient building of mounds of data which they continually test. The A's are like predators. They devour the facts, but only as a means of getting their appetites for confirmation of what they sense is true in the first place, often testify that intuitionism and creativity are the same thing. Synthesis, the combination of ideas to form a theory or a system. A second school of thought, equally valued and growing rapidly in importance even in scientific circles, in the synthesis school. The creative person is the one who is most skilled and including all factors, especially the psychological ones, and coming forth with a conclusion that is better than the others because it stands the test of time. Brain research in this area is clearly a main frontier of science today. Marilyn Ferguson's book, The Aquarian Conspiracy 1980, all kinds of questions arise from this area of research. How the right and left lobes of the brains work together. Is it true that left-handed persons are more creative than right-handed ones? Is parapsychology the coming field because it holds the key to extrasensory perception? Is brain research key to consciousness, which widely read authors such as the author of Dreaming America 1970 considered to be the key to human well-being? Once consciousness is mentioned, other accompanying concepts such as imagination, sensitivity, acuteness, and empathy immediately come to mind. So synthesis is obviously a thesaurus term with many connotations. Imagination is the ability to produce and simulate novel objects, sensation, and ideas in the mind without any immediate input of senses. Third major emphasis finds the solution to creativity in imagination. Often they seem to suggest that they personally do not come up with ideas. The ideas come out of the blue. There is an element of magic or mystery in writings that have stood the rest of time. Many of the latter are on record as saying that imagination is something over which they have no active control. It is writing a novel, you decide on characters and situation, the plot takes off, the author is the vehicle, not the guide. Levels of control. The levels of attention approach to creativity. Another major theory about origin of creativity is that notable by Arthur Koestler, the act of creation. Koestler's might be called the levels of attention approach to creativity. Koestler agreed with Beveridge that there are two kinds of people, namely imaginative and the precise. The former typically have a more outgoing personality and more skills than the paragons of factual analysis, who tend to be introspective and not nearly so expressive. The essence of creativity, thought Koestler, is the ability to operate in more than one plane. Koestler argued that because of both native and acquired traits, the highly creative individuals are able to turn it on almost at will. It coordinates experience and imagination, such as person has images of what is possible or even ideas. They are so elevated and carried away that they lose track of time. Experience a kind of ecstasy have to be called to meals. The more adept a person is at rising from lower, applied areas to higher intellectual and imaginative planes, the more creative such a fortunate individual is likely to become, but must be done naturally, not artificially, because if the latter, the artificial, will show the person's product. Conflict. Assuming that creativity arises out of conflict and the clash of opposites. This approach to creativity seems at odds with this forward have all an attempt integration and harmony. The ones we are about to consider is reject, assuming that creativity arises out of conflict and the clash of opposites. Best example of this approach is William May's book, The Courage to Create. The theory is both good and evil are found in all creation, one dominating at one time and other another. There is certain deep drive such as death, power, or anger, and one is frustrated as transference or sublimation of truth if the public judges creative. In an article called Bureaucracy Self-Examined, which appeared in the Public Administration Review in 1944, that bureaucracy can be fully understood only when one examines carefully every component of administration. Then you ask the same thing about control, personal system, public relation, goal setting, planning, policy, and all the rest. Nothing is accepted. No higher law than creativity exists because creativity is the essence of humanness, both for the supplier and for the beneficiary. If there are enough creative people and if they are given sufficient freedom and encouragement, their number will multiply. And if the number becomes large enough and the spirit widely pervasive, the public will be drawn to the program's attractiveness and surrounding aura. Juxtaposition of factors. Beginning with the last of the five crises, we cannot accept the realization that threats to survival are what shake people up the most. All this and many more threats of loss which cause us to do certain things, question our goals and out methods. Once we innovate, we are performing the creative act, and if we should become skilled or inspired enough to raise the standard in any field, from any from art to agriculture, then we are providing proof that all of the 5 creative factors can be combined programmatically. Problem solving takes place only when problems are approached creativity. When the approach is in bits or pieces or puts technique above purpose or is a cover up for outworn ideas or system, then in the long run, such efforts are bound to fail. Public administration deals with the human needs and how those needs can be met with imagination, empathy, and practical means, or at least somewhat allied by these attributes. Public administration has no corpus or justification outside this dedication to needs. Such being the case, see how the administrative mind uses creativity to achieve these goals. Intuition is divination through empathy and intelligence of the appropriate means needed to achieve personal and social goals. It is defining the public interest, such as philosopher or humanist with imagination is a revelation, an image of the way things ought to be. Nothing is ever so good that it cannot be made better. Synthesis is the depth or experience melding of all ingredients to form from whole that is viable and progressive. It is a future, medium, range, and present all rolled into one. The first belief is that policy and inspiration occur at the top. The accompanying belief is that all motivation and practical accomplishment come from the bottom. What is up to is a philosophy balance. Activity is both an idea and a canvas, a vision of city parks and stable neighborhood of profit, making enterprise, sharing a dedication to the common interest. There would be less conflict if there were more poets. There would be more poets if there were more doers capable of making living dreams a reality. And that's creativity is all about. Hope you learned something. Thank you for watching.